Hello, everybody. How are you doing? Welcome to spring 2022 quarter. All right. Hopefully this English class will be enjoyable. It's not easy to teach an English class online. Usually takes give and take. If I'm in the class, you write on the board, etc. So I'm going to do my best to make it interesting, have interesting stories and rules and things to follow. Okay. And it's going to be the first quarter. I teach a two-booker, so we'll do half of it or what have you with one book, and then end with another to deal with communication skills. Right, that's what we need to do. All right. So without further ado, we'll go to the material. I guess I'll go from the beginning. Okay. So ENG 101, right? Okay. So we're developing communication skills. All right. So we'll do a little about reading comprehension, but mostly how to improve our communication with vocabulary and dialogues. Okay. And interesting stories. So week one. So this is scheduled for April the 4th. So hopefully you had a good April Fool's Day on the 1st. So this is April the 4th. Okay. And the first story I selected for you was Frida Kahlo, and it's titled Triumph Over Tragedy. Frida Kahlo was the famous, probably Mexico's most famous contemporary artist. Okay. So for you ladies out there, feel proud. And triumph is a word that means, succeeding greatly over something. And what does she succeed over? Tragedy. And we'll learn exactly what kind of tragedy she will triumph over. There's a number of them, actually, in her life. There's a lot of reasons to be proud for her as a Latina or a female artist or just a female, right? So here we go. Independence, rebelliousness, self-assurance. Okay, those are some very big words to start with right off the bat. We know independence, so she gained her independence. Rebelliousness means that she was a fighter and she rebelled against many traditional things in Mexican culture of the time where she was alive. And in self-assurance, it's like another way to say self-confidence. So these traits shared by many famous people. She's not the only one, but that's what marks them as kind of like belonging to the same team. They are found particularly among artists. So what is stated here is that a high percentage of artists have these traits, right, or character traits: independence, rebelliousness, and self-assurance. And certainly this is the case in Frida Kahlo, who belonged to the first generation of famous North American women artists. Okay. So they're including her in all of North America, which, if you don't realize, I've only heard her previously, actually showing her pride in being a Mexican artist, but they're including her. So North America includes Mexico, which a lot of people don't realize. Mexico is not South America to most American people. They don't know that. And North America means United States. And then that also includes Canada. Okay. So they're giving her a broad scope here. Continuing, even as a child, Mexico's best known woman painter exhibited, which means showed, an independent, rebellious spirit and lack of restraint that often got her into trouble. So restraint is a word that means control. Okay, some people have a lot of self-control and won't do or say things that might offend other people, but she had a lack of this and didn't mind what she said or didn't mind what she did if it bothered people. And this especially was more difficult in her time. The culture was a lot stricter than what it is today. She preferred to run, jump, and skip instead of walk because young girls at that time were not expected to do those things. Only boys did those things. And she found it difficult to control herself, even in church where you're supposed to be very quiet and not move and not bring any attention. She was brought up in a strict Catholic church. And this is where she giggled. Giggled is, he, that small laughter, and teased her younger sister. At the age of 6, however, Frida's life changed dramatically. She got polio and was confined to her bed for 9 months. Okay. You guys are a younger generation than I am. So you probably don't even know what polio was, right? By the time even me, by the time I'm so much older, I came around, the United States had to, got the medicine and as they say, conquered the disease of polio, right? But Frida, like a lot older than I was. So I remember seeing pictures though as a kid where they showed the kids who had polio and they wore like metal braces on their legs, right? And walked around. It was very difficult. Oh, so if you ever saw the movie Forrest Gump, those metal things that he wore on his legs, that's what kids with polio wore, okay, before they found the antidote, as they say, the cure, and then gave the kids injections, and people didn't get polio. But she got it at 6, okay, and it changed her life dramatically. And as it says, she was confined or strapped to her bed for 9 months. The disease left Frida's right leg shorter and thinner than her left. And when she had recovered enough to return to school, she walked with a limp. So a limp is where you walk and you look like you're moving painfully with one leg. It kind of like goes up and down. And who knows, she might have had pain. It's not stated here, but she also might have pain in the limb. Usually people do. She was often teased by her playmates because kids will tease you for many, many things. And although that was emotionally painful for her, she compensated or made up for it by being outgoing and gained a reputation as a character, which again, in a strict Catholic home in the time of her birth, which was the early 1900s, kids were supposed to be seen and not heard. Okay. So by being rebellious, she's a character. She doesn't follow the rules. Her father encouraged her to play sports to strengthen her leg. And eventually she was able to walk quite well. So she got rid of most of her limp. Frida's father, Guillermo, a professional photographer, an amateur painter, excuse me, was a great influence in her life. So that's very good. She had a strong father figure, very important. In 1922, so now you're getting if you were confused, well, when was she around? You're not telling me exactly, Here you go, in 1922, at the age of 15. So that means that she was born in 1907, okay? Early part of last century. Frida was enrolled at the National Preparatory School in Mexico City, which was near her hometown of. Though I've been there, okay, and they say Coyoacán, but American person might say Coyoacán. Okay, so you got it both ways there. I've been to her home too. This was the beginning of the post, which means after revolutionary period in Mexico. And the country was experiencing a time of cultural rebirth, as well as reforming the old ways. It was a strong spirit of nationalism and pride in Mexico's heritage. Frida identified with the revolution, intellectually identified with it, emotionally, and spiritually. So just to elaborate a little bit on that, let's say whatever country you guys are from, you can pick a country. Mongolia, Philippines. Your country might have a revolution, but well, not but so they have a revolution, and then you identify with it intellectually. You're like, well, okay, I think it's necessary. We're living in really strict times, or what have you. But it doesn't affect you for some reason personally on a personal level too much. So you're not really emotionally behind it, like maybe people who are actually involved in the revolution or protesting. And then spiritually is where you feel it deep down inside. I think usually spiritually, when people feel a revolution, it's when they are revolting against a country that's maybe governing them at the present time, and the original people there want them out. But for her, they even though Spain was long gone, she identified on all three levels. She understood it mentally, she was emotionally whipped up into it, and then even spiritually in her soul, she felt, yes, this revolution is the thing to do. After a few months at the school, Frida adopted a radical new look, which is a high way of saying she changed her look completely. Now people would say something like, well, she dressed like a normal girl, and then she became a goth, where they wear white makeup and all black clothes and look kind of like a vampire, right? So she adopted a radical, completely different new look. Although her father, whom she adored, and adored means to like respect and love greatly at the same time. Her father was European. Frida rejected her European clothes in favor of overalls. Okay. This is interesting. A lot of time I've asked my ESL students, especially like girls, if they wear this, and I'll ask them, I'll say, what is it that you're wearing? And they don't even know the name of it, right? So overalls basically are like, let's say they're jeans, they're blue jeans with a top in the front and two straps in the back, which are all, the whole material is jeans. And they usually wear them over like a sweater or some kind of a top. Okay, so those are overalls. So she said, I'm not going to wear European clothes. I'm going to wear these like overalls, which in the past, even when I was a kid, young girls would not wear these because they were considered, only people in the country that worked on farms and worked hard wore them, not city folks. But she was, I guess, telling society, I'm going to wear this stuff. Because the revolution in Mexico was about the country workers and poor people trying to better their lives. She cut her thick black hair short like a boy, so no typical long hair, identifying her as a young lady, and rode around Coyoacán on a bicycle, shocking everyone. So girls were not known to ride bicycles at that time. She even changed her birth date from 907 to 910 to show her sympathy with the Mexican Revolution. So Mexican Revolution was in 910. She wanted to say, I don't know how legal it was to change her birth date, but she's trying to say, yes, I was, born during the revolution, even though it wasn't true. But she felt it emotionally and spiritually. And she wanted to identify herself with the beginnings of modern Mexico, right? Modern Mexico. Frida thrived on intellectual, social, and cultural stimulation at school. Okay, thrived. It's a good word for you to know. It's a high-level word. Not all American people understand this word, so better if you do. It's going to be great for your English, especially your communication. You can tell people, I thrive, and they go, wow, shoot. I have a few friends that don't even know how to use this word. So thrive means you really have a successful motivation, on certain things. So her schooling, she was the best when she had intellectual in her mind, social amongst the groups of people, and cultural stimulation at school. Some people thrive on other things. Maybe you thrive on mathematics and science, and that's why you get all A's in physics and math and things like that. Where me, typically I teach language, so I usually language people are not too happy with like algebra and physics, and I hated that kind of stuff. I would not thrive on that. Okay, she made friends easily and quickly became part of the notorious cachuchas. Okay, that's a nickname for a group. Notorious is, I'm sure you've heard the word famous. Okay, famous is a positive thing, right? Notorious is like a negative famous. It's like, oh, everybody knows her, but nobody likes a cachucha, so it's a notorious. It'd be like saying, Temujin, if you're still here, or Phil Cho. It's like Mr. Cho or Temujin are famous for being mafia, right? It's like, oh, okay, everybody knows, but that's not a real great thing, right? So the cachuchas was a group of 7 boys and 2 girls, intelligent, they give them that, yet rebellious, so that means they fought against the rules, students who named themselves after the caps, like a baseball cap, right, worn at school. So that was the cap, the school cap. She probably, it's not mentioned here, but she probably went to a Catholic school, so she wore a uniform. I guess caps were part of the uniform. Their keen minds, keen means sharp or smart, intelligent. Their keen minds were matched only by their contempt for authority and capacity for trouble. That's a funny line. Contempt means it's kind of like you hate something. So what do they hate it here? Authority, right? School teachers, principals, police, you name it, government, who knows? And then capacity is your ability. So their keen minds were matched or equaled only by their, like saying, hate for authority, and then their capacity or ability for trouble. So what it's saying is some people can get into a little bit of trouble because they're not rebellious, but they're not, 100% good. But this group had a high capacity for trouble, so they could get into a lot of trouble. I guess it made them happy. Frida's natural independence and mischievousness. Mischievousness, that's usually a term applied to kids, right? And I don't know if you're talking about high school or it kind of stops at that age, but who knows? Maybe they felt, okay, this is a good word to use. So mischievous means you kind of look around for doing bad things. So like I said, with kids, it's like, let's say you're teaching younger kids, like elementary school kids, and then half the class is really good. They listen to the teacher, they sit in the chair, they don't make any trouble, they're ready to do their work. And you've got like other children, like some boys are screaming, or they don't want to stay in their chair. Other kids are making paper airplanes and flying them through the air, right? Pinching girls, whatever. They're mischievous. Okay, but they're saying these kids were in, I guess, high school, early high school, still mischievous, and their nature to fit right in with this group. She cut classes and joined in their escapades. So cut classes means you don't go to certain classes. Okay. In English, we call it plain hooky. So let's say you're in high school and you have 7 classes per day. Maybe 3 of those classes she never went to, right? And didn't care. And then she joined them. Escapades means adventure. So whatever they did, if they left the school completely and went to the park, or went to see a movie, or she stayed in school, she didn't go to class, and they were playing games or hiding or smoking or who knows what, right? So part of these mischievous or bad kids, she enjoyed doing these kinds of things. One day, the cachuchas let a donkey loose in a classroom. Oh, that's pretty dangerous. Another time, one of the cachuchas set off fireworks next to a dog who ran wildly through the school, creating chaos. Now, if you've ever done something like that or seen it, I mean, it doesn't have to be fireworks. If you ever had a calm dog and then, somebody hits a horn or screams or something, they can be scared and then run crazy. So the fireworks, with the loud noise and the fire, scared the dog so much it ran through the school, creating chaos. It probably was a time where there was a lot of people, probably lunchtime. And so it just, I'm sure they thought that was funny. So Frida was even expelled, or means kicked out of school once, but managed to regain entrance by boldly appealing to the Minister of Education. So interesting girl. It shows for you at the time. She probably expelled means kicked out. So she probably wanted to get kicked out of school, but then she also liked elements of school because, like I said before, she thrived on intellectual, social, and cultural stimulation. She was getting that at the school. So somehow she, boldly, strongly appealed to the Minister of Education, please take me back to school, even though I cannot control myself and the bad things that I do, like letting donkeys and dogs run around wild. Okay. Meanwhile, Frida was developing a strong sense of self-assurance. That goes back to what I told you earlier, confidence and belief in herself. She showed an aptitude or a ability for science. So maybe she liked it, right? And intended to go on to medical school and become a doctor. Now, see, again, that's definitely something I was never interested in, let's say, emotionally. And then intellectually, I knew all the science, the chemistry, and things that I had no ability to do at a high level. So I realized also that that was not an area for me to pursue. Wouldn't make any sense. Although she didn't become a physician, her studies in biology. So she's a smart girl. Biology is not easy. And then physiology, the study of the body, later influenced her work. In many of her paintings, hearts, glands, the glands in your body that say sweat glands, right? And other organs are displayed both inside and outside the body. And if you see the paintings, they're done quite accurately. They're not some weird kind of, well, what is that? I thought it was a ketchup stain. No, you can actually tell that they're glands, hearts, and organs, right? But she had that interest. A turning point. Okay, so if you haven't heard the term turning point, I guess that happens for, I won't say all, because maybe some people don't have it, but most people have a turning point. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad, you know, but it's when your life changes for whatever your destiny is going to be, however your life outcome is going to be, right? Sometimes you do it purposely, or sometimes it just happens to you. So a turning point occurred in Frida's life in September 1925. So remember, 1922 she was 15, so now she's 18. So she's getting ready to graduate from high school. So in September 1925, she was involved in a near fatal accident, which means she almost died. The bus in which she was riding home after school collided or hit with a trolley car. A trolley car is kind of like a train, but on a very slow level compared to a train, but it's still made from metal and strong. The impact caused a metal rail to break loose, piercing Frida's entire body with a steel rod. So that means a piece of metal, a long piece of metal, broke from the trolley car and went through her whole body like an arrow. But you know, an arrow only goes so far. They said this steel rod, Jesus, went far through her body. Poor thing. She, like I said, near fatal, right? I was going to say, how do you even survive that? The Red Cross doctors who arrived and examined the victims separated the injured from the dying, giving the injured first priority. So what they're saying there is, let's say I'm involved, right? And then they can tell that I'm dying and I'm probably going to die. So it doesn't make a lot of sense to try to help me, you know, try to save my life, because they can tell that they cannot. So people who are injured, just injured, they will try to help them first so that they don't come to the next stage. So if I'm the one that's dying, they won't try to use a lot of medicine to save me. They say, well, this guy's going to die within an hour or two anyway. So people who are just injured, we can fix them. So they took one look at Frida and they put her with the hopeless cases. So they put her with the people that they said they're going to die within a couple of hours. So we're not going to help her, right? It looks like it's beyond our ability. Poor thing, which we found out, you know, that was not the situation because she lived, a strong woman. The doctors eventually, finally, okay, all the people we treated, now we'll get to you because you're probably going to die. That's their thinking. They treated Frida, and miraculously, like a miracle, she survived. She suffered a broken spine. Oh my God, that's what I understand. It's very painful. Broke her collarbone. I've had my collarbone broken. That's not fun. And pelvis, her hips, and then also 2 broken ribs. Her right leg was broken in 11 places. Not one break, 11. And her right foot was crushed. So crushed is like, oh, I don't know. Let's say you have some grapes and you drop a grape, you know, and they're round and you drop weight on it, they become flat. So, oh my God, that's what happened to her right foot. Her left shoulder was dislocated. From that point on, Frida would never live a day without pain. So every day of her life, and she did not live to old age, as we'll find out, was a day of pain, poor thing. Okay. Continuing. Although Frida recovered enough to lead a very normal life, fairly, right? So fairly would be a percentage like 50%. The accident had severe psychological, physical consequences. So we will find out what they are, but that means that psychologically it has its own scarring, its own damage of what she can do or what she can't do, and how she looks at her body. I'm sure she said my body is ugly, and then the physical consequences, which are more to the point of what kind of a life could she do physically. She probably could never run again, couldn't swim, probably could drive a car, things like that. And cars were becoming to be popular during her young lifetime. She had to abandon or give up her plans to become a doctor. Yeah, if your body's that damaged, you can't perform operations on other people. And she had to recognize that she would be a near invalid for the rest of her life. So invalid is a person that basically, it's an old term. I don't know if they've replaced it. Since they've replaced so many other terms for being not politically correct. When I was a kid and a teenager, we had the term handicap. That's what they looked for. I think it went from invalid to handicap. Then more recently, it's become physically challenged, right? So an invalid meant that if you're 100% invalid, you really can't take care of yourself. You need people to help you with like 99 or 100% of what you have to do. So a near invalid means she could do some things for herself, but other things she needed help. Her slowly healing body kept her in bed for months, and it was during this time that Frida began to paint while she was in bed. She read every book on art she could get her hands on. Exactly 1 year after her accident, she produced her first painting, a self-portrait dedicated to her school boyfriend. Oh my. The leader of the Cachuchas. Some artists look to nature or society for their inspiration, but Frida Kahlo looked inward, inside of her. After her crippling accident, and again, crippling is a word that's maybe disappearing, but means the same thing as making a person invalid. Frida depicted or showed her pain in haunting, which means scary, dreamlike self-portraits. Most of her 200 paintings explore her vision of herself. In The Broken Column, 1944, so if she was 15 and 22, you add 22 more years, so she's 37. Her body is open. The painting shows her body, should I say cut open, to reveal a cracked column in place of her spine, because remember, her spine was broken. In The Wounded Deer, 1946, so she's been 37, a small deer with Frida's head and a body pierced with arrows runs through the woods. So like I told you, it's similar to that piece of metal, but actually worse, that went through her body, like animals being shot with arrows. In 1929, this is earlier, Frida married the celebrated or famous Mexican artist Diego Rivera. It would be an emotionally turbulent. Turbulent means, like we use the word for turbulent waters when there's a storm. So there was emotionally up and down marriage, happy, sad, fighting, calm. However, with a divorce in 1939, so 10 years later. And then they got remarried a year later. I guess their love was deep and they really missed each other. Diego made no secret of his infidelities. Oh dear, infidelities means he had affairs with other ladies. He made no secret of it. And this caused Frida much pain. That's emotional pain. although his devotion and admiration for her as an artist never diminished. Diego's betrayal of Frida's devotion inflicted great injury on her. So she was devoted to him, but then when she found out he was having love affairs with other women, it was very painful emotionally for her. And as it revealed in a series of paintings depicting or showing their relationship. So she painted these feelings in these situations. I have suffered 2 accidents in my life, she wrote. One in which a streetcar ran over me, and I guess she'll say it destroyed her physically. The other is Diego. Okay, that's the other accident where he destroyed her emotionally, her devotion to him. Frida's condition required many operations to try to straighten her spine and repair her foot. But with each one, her condition seemed to worsen, poor thing. Often she painted in bed with an easel, which is the white board, right, that painters use. And her mother had designed this one for her. Her health seriously declined or went down when she was in her 40s. But Frida always kept her lively spirit. By then, she was internationally known. When a Mexican gallery, finally there we go, Mexican gallery, art gallery, wanted to have a major exhibition of her work, she arranged to have her elaborately decorated 4-poster bed where she slept, spent most of her time, carried into the gallery so that she could receive people. So she received people in the gallery from her bed. I'm not sure, I'm not a complete expert on certain things. I'm not sure if they had, no, I'm sure at this time they did, but she was older. Maybe not when she was 18, I don't know, because I was 19, 20. But at this time they had wheelchairs made of wood, not metal like now, but I guess she didn't want that. She says, hey, I do my art in my bed, meet me in my bed. Very strong personality indeed. All right, so that brings me to the end of this story. Oh, I still got a little bit, sorry. Okay, Frida died in 1954 in the same room of the bright blue house in which she had been born. So she was born and died in the same house. How many of us can say that now, right? Especially you brave students who have come from Philippines, Mongolia, Korea, Japan. And if you get citizenship, and let's say you were born in Japan, you probably won't die in that same house, So, but this is the old way, and this is what happened to her. So she died in 54. So let me see. If she was 37 and 46, add 8 more years. So 45 years old. Like I said, she did not live a long life. So only 44, 45. Wow. She left her work as her legacy. So you see down here. So these words on the bottom, if you don't like my definition, there's another definition down here. Usually they're the same, but they might add a little something more. It says here, legacy is something received by others after a person's death. I hate to tell you, but this legacy definition sucks. Okay, that sucks. I know Temujin and a couple of guys were Kobe Bryant fans since I've been teaching you for a few years. So Kobe, we know he died in that plane crash. But in his basketball career, he left a great legacy, right? He won many championships with the Lakers and was widely respected. Some people say he might have been the best player of all time. So that's more to the point of what a legacy is. And some people, if you're a bad person and do bad things, you'll have a negative legacy. But equally inspirational is her life story and the fact that by transforming pain, physical and emotional for Frida, into the brilliant art, Frida Kahlo triumphed, like I said, succeeded over misfortune. Misfortune is a term meaning bad luck. Okay. All right. So now we proceed. Okay. Again, we're trying to improve your communication here. So I have to give you a lot of vocabulary. All right. So most students are able to answer these questions and send them back to me. But if for whatever reason, and I'm not the most computer guy myself, but if somehow you can't answer these, you'll have to write them and send them to me in an email. So I accept all answers in an email. So remember, you're going to send your answers to me. Okay. But I will read these questions for you. Okay. So number one, independence, rebelliousness, self-assurance. These are traits shared by many famous people. So you're just going to choose which of these matches the bold or dark black word. Okay. All right. So you'll choose on one stage: optimism, confidence, strength, and or moodiness. Two, Kahlo showed a lack of restraint that often got her into trouble. Again, choose these. So these vocabs will come on the midterm. I'll just say something I won't do, since you've had in the reading and I explain them and you've got the questions here for homework. I'll just say, give me the meaning of, restraint. What is the meaning of self-assurance? But we'll have done it enough times in these contexts to where it should be easy. You'll just remember in a snap. Okay, three, in church, she giggled and teased her sister. So which one matches teased? Okay. Four, although she was often teased by her playmates, and this was emotionally painful for her, Frida compensated by being outgoing. You've got, and then what does it say? AC. Okay. So you choose of those two. Five, Kahlo became part of a notorious cachuchas, a group of 7 boys and 2 girls, intelligent yet rebellious students who named themselves after the caps worn at school. So which of these matches the blackened word? 6, the cachuchas' keen minds were matched only by their contempt for authority and capacity for trouble. So which one matches? And like I said, I touched on all these words in the reading. I think I explained them all. So stuff's easy peasy, lemon squeezy. In September 1925, Kahlo was involved in a near fatal accident. Be careful, this one could be a little tricky. Sometimes they give you some good options. So you might have to use a dictionary. Or if you have your phone, use your pop-up. 8, the impact of the bus colliding with the trolley car caused a metal rail to break loose. Okay, you know what to do here. Okay, 9, after her accident, Kahlo depicted her pain and self-portraits. And 10, Kahlo's marriage to Diego Rivera was emotionally turbulent. So what does turbulent mean here? Romantic? Maybe delicate? Your choice. If you paid attention to my reading, you already know the answer. You're probably doing them right now. All right, now we're going to do a part called skimming and scanning for, not scamming, scanning for details. Okay. Scan is when you read quickly over the page. You don't sit there and try to go through every word slowly. And you'll find the answers to these questions. Circle the letter of the best answer. So again, maybe 2 answers are going to be similar, right? But circle the one you think is the correct one or the closest one, right? As a young girl, Frida Kahlo was, okay. So I think students are going to like this one because I usually ask in the past, just you would have no options. You would have to read the material. And then students would write silly things like, as a young girl, Frida Kahlo was hungry, but here you've got the choices. Okay, so it should be easier for you. 2, polio left Kahlo with a limp, and as a result, she became, right? 3, Kahlo's father was and again, if I did not give you the multiple choice, I've had people in the past write crazy stuff. Kahlo's father was an alcoholic. Kahlo's father played football for the LA Rams, it's like, oh my God. So here you got your choices here. 4, at school, Kahlo joined. 5, when Kahlo was in school, her goal was to become a 6, which area of study eventually influenced Kahlo's painting. 7, Kahlo began to paint, right? Again, like I said, you've got these nice options instead of, she began to paint butterflies. No, it's not the truth. 8, which of the following does not describe Kahlo's artwork? So don't be tricked. Don't jump. It says, look here, does not. So some people read it, they read fast. I got to do these quickly. Which of the following does describe? So this is in the negative, okay? 9, Kahlo considered her marriage to Diego Rivera, and again, this will help you not write things like the most beautiful thing in the world or the most loving, no, you know what's going on. 10, the time of her death, Kahlo was, and if you have some funny guy like Temujin's going to say, wow, at the time of her death, Kahlo was almost dead, right? That's not one of the options. Now, this is like the highest level to build a different skill in your communication stuff. And if you can do this in your conversations with folks, this would be very good, very, very good. Some American people have difficulty with this. Most do not, but some do. And I want you to be able to feel confident in this kind of skill. A lot of times students, foreign students do not feel confident in this area. All right, it's my job to build you up here. All right. Making inferences and drawing conclusions. Okay, some of the following statements can be inferred from the reading, and others cannot. Circle the number, so you don't have to write here, you just circle, but you might have to study it. Right? Circle the number of each statement that can be, yeah, don't be tricked, can be inferred. Okay. All right, so if you're like, what is infer, right? Infer, let me try to give you a down-to-earth meaning, okay? Inferring something is like saying, we have a saying called, it's safe to say, right? Safe to say. So I'll give you like since I talked about Kobe earlier, I'll give you a sports inference, right? If you're describing a guy and you're saying, oh, he has fast hands, he punches very hard, and he trains a lot. Well, from that information, I can infer that this person, this man, will probably do well in boxing, right? Now, if we have it on the other side and you tell me he's out of shape, his hands are slow, and he doesn't hit hard, I can infer that this person probably will not, it's safe to say this person will not do well in boxing, okay? So that's what infer means, okay? So again, out of these 10, some of these statements, you can infer that they're probably going to be true. And other ones, maybe they're too confusing or not enough information. You cannot infer, right? All right, so number 1, I'll read them. Shy, withdrawn people are not as likely to achieve fame as bold, confident people. So what they're saying here is, if you're shy and withdrawn and don't like to talk to people, I have a friend like that. He works a graveyard shift, which means he works at midnight till 8 in the morning because he does not want to talk to anybody. He will refuse to work a day shift because you have to work with a lot of employees. All right. So if you're shy, withdrawn, which means you don't like to deal with people, it can be inferred, you think, that it's likely you will not achieve fame as a bold, confident person, right? Okay. 2, sometimes tragic or sad incidents can turn out to be positive influences in our lives. So all I'll say about that is the answer to this is if you paid attention to the story of Frida. 3, Frida Kahlo was influenced by events that occurred both to her and in the outside world. Do we have enough information to circle that and say that's inferred to be true, or we don't? 4, Kahlo was easily intimidated, which means scared, by those in positions of authority. My hint there is the cachuchas. 5, several events in Kahlo's life prove that she had a weak character. Can we infer that that's true or not true? 6, if Kahlo had not been involved in the bus accident, she probably would never have become a famous artist, right? So you're gonna have to balance that between, didn't she want to be a doctor? Okay, 7, Kahlo used her art as a way to express her personal feelings. Do we have enough information on that to circle that or not? Kahlo's painting can be described as cheerful and optimistic. 9, Kahlo's marriage to Diego Rivera influenced her art. What do you think, yes or no? 10, Kahlo's physical disabilities would eventually have led her to withdraw from society. It might be opposite there. Okay, now that, my friends, says we're done with the first book. Okay, now we're going to move to a second one that's really directly more on a daily life communication to assist you in these situations that you'll find yourself, you know. No, you will learn these words to be helpful for you in these dialogues. Okay. So the chapter for this week is entitled New Friends and Getting Started. So start to hi there, right? New country, new friends, but how do you meet them? Making new friends is an exciting part of moving to a new place, but sometimes it's hard to know just how formal to be with new people. And that can be at a different level compared to what different culture you come from. So you see here, it says Americans are usually very casual. They're also very friendly. This is a good thing. but it can be tricky. Everyone knows that good old basic English phrase, hello, it's nice to meet you. Oh yeah, we bet you were ready for that. Well, you may be ready, but then you may be surprised to learn that you won't hear that phrase very often. Hello, it's nice to meet you is okay for first time introductions only. But when friends meet socially, the conversation will probably sound more like this. And before I get into this, I just again want to go over this point. When it talks about casual, so for instance, in Spanish and in Korean, you have what you speak to regular people, and then you have a respect form in the language, right? Which you usually use to speak to someone older than you or a professional person, okay? And English, that's another reason why Americans are very casual, does not have this form, right? So Spanish, you talk to your friend or someone around your age, and you say, hey, ¿cómo estás? Right? With an S. But someone's older, respectful position, and then you're gonna have to say ¿cómo está usted? Right? And I guess it's similar in Korean. Your buddies, you know, hey, 괜찮아요? And then someone older, 괜찮으세요? Right? So these are respectful forms, but English does not have this. You speak to everybody the same way, unless you just want to use a title, right? So that's that. And and here's another thing I want to let you know. These words that we call them bold words or darkened words or black words, what I want you to do, and I'm going to leave it up to you because they will appear on the midterm, not all, the ones that I choose. So I'll leave it up to you in your homework to look up the meanings of these words. So again, just send me on the email, separate page if you have, I don't care. I don't mind looking over the stuff. And you'll put casual and then equals, you know, and then so then you're right, casual means this. Tricky means this, right? So, you know, hopefully you do them. If you don't, then you might come up short for points on the midterm. So again, it depends how much you want to improve your everyday conversation. All right. Okay, so here's a dialogue, and I'll go through it. Hey, Leah. Leah's a girl's name. Hey, Leah, it's good to see you. You too. I haven't seen you in a few days. How are you? How's it going? See, so it starts changing. How's it going? Not bad. I'm so busy with the classes I'm taking. How about you? Leah says, she's talking to Alan, by the way. So Leah says, I'm okay. I know you're busy with classes. My job's really hectic. So this is a word that hopefully you will look up and send me the meaning in an email. This time of year too, what's new with you? So what is the meaning of hectic? Alan, nothing much. I'm on my way to the mall. I think everybody knows the mall, especially the girls, right? I need some time off. Do you remember Lana? She's there. Ha! She's always at the mall. I think a lot of our friends plan to just hang out at the mall tonight. Leah, who? Oh yeah, I remember Lana. She's the one with the scary looking dog. I don't want to hang out with that dog. Alan says, ha, you aren't afraid of that little tiny dog, are you? Well, I'm sure Rover isn't at the mall. Rover is the name of the dog. I don't know, is this my Philip, if I have Miss Calaibo, is this the same as the Tagalog ha? Like I saw the Filipino restaurant, good, ha? Is this the same meaning that you know? Let me know in your email. Okay, Leah, actually I'm headed, does that really have to do with her head? To the mall later anyway. There's a huge sale going on. I think they're open extra late. Alan replies, great, maybe I'll see you there. Leah, sounds good. We're both good shoppers. If I get there before you leave, maybe I'll see you. After all, we aren't leaving until we see all the sales. And I'm not leaving until I have some cute new shoes. Okay, so here's some more information for you. These little short things are helpful. So here's a situation in meeting your neighbors that you might have to talk. Although Americans are very friendly, they also rather private. You may be surprised to know that very often people don't even know their neighbors, and that's true, especially if you guys live in an apartment complex. I've lived, you know, someplace 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, and most of the neighbors I don't know because they didn't talk. In a big city, it's very possible that people living in the same apartment building won't know the people next door. In the suburbs, it's not unusual for neighbors to wave from their cars to say hi across their yards, but not to know their neighbors' names. So again, that lets you know you might say hi to a person. And let's say you have a police incident and the policeman knows, do you know that person in 4F? I've said hi to them for the last 3 years, but I don't know their name. Very common. Have you noticed how many houses have fences around them? It may seem strange, but it's really just an example of how much Americans value a sense of privacy, especially at home. Friendly, but private. Now that's tricky. Of course, some neighbors just like to party all the time. Ooh boy, that can be a problem. So again, the darkened words here, there are only a few. Send me an email what they mean. What is actually the suburbs? What does that mean? Okay, this is the second dialogue. Leah says, hi, I'm Leah Chen, your neighbor from around the block. We're having a barbecue Saturday and we thought you might like to come. Lots of the neighbors will be there. Jay and Ramon are coming too. They're your neighbors across the street. Alan says, it's nice to meet you, Leah. I'd like to come, but I'll be working all weekend on a big project for my job. Leah, well, if you change your mind, come on over. You're welcome to come, and I think it'll be fun for you to meet all the neighbors. Alan, thanks. By the way, I've been meaning to talk to you. I hope my dog's barking doesn't bother you. Leah responds, actually, I wanted to talk to you about that. When you're gone during the day, the dog barks all the time. It's driving me nuts. And I'll just tell you that has nothing to do with peanuts or almonds, okay? But you will look up the definition. Alan, I'm really sorry. I'll keep the dog in the house when I'm gone. Leah, thanks so much. I hope you'll come over for some burgers and dogs on Saturday, maybe Rover, right? And drop by our house to visit any time. Okay, so that's the end of the material. All right. So that's it for today. Hopefully you've enjoyed it and you got some good inspiration from the story, and you're going to be involved in improving your communication a lot this quarter. Okay. So without further ado, the first week is done for April the 4th. I shall see you next week, scheduled for April the 11th. Okay. Bye-bye.